All right, it is that time once again with the college football season fast approaching. We are going to be previewing conference by conference here on Hit the Books, part of the Hammer Betting Network, alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Joey Knish, our extraordinary producer back home in Toronto, Canada, at least if that's your home, Zach Phillips. I am merely Brad Powers, and today's show we are going to be talking the American, which has been typically the best conference at the G5 level here, at least over the last decade. Going to have some, different members this year. It's a little bit watered down compared to what it used to because exit right, UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, three of the biggest powers in the conference are gone. And insert a bunch of Conference USA teams from, relatively big markets. We'll see what this conference is. Before I get into introducing my co-host, Mr. Joey Knish, let's pay some bills for the pizza man and everybody else there. Make sure, guys, the easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is to use multiple sports books. So Hit the Books is brought to you by BetStamp. You always want to get the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book for games, futures, player props. Save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. You can download the Bet app. You can download the BetStamp app today. If you're looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please check out the offers available at betstamp.app/hitthebooks. Or hit the link in the description. If you sign up through this page, it helps support the show. Knish, what's happening, man? Are you looking forward to talking some Tulane football here on today's show?
From Conference USA to the other American, baby. A new look American that might not look as powerful as the top as it's funny. It really is the life of like a G5. Like they finally get the conference rolling with some multiple powers. Cincinnati's making the playoff, and then they all get poached. And now you go from the Cincinnati's and the UCFs to dragging Rice and UAB weighing you down. So but no, hey, from a from an action perspective, a betting perspective, I mean all this realignment stuff, I think. Makes it more difficult on, better for us, worse for, the people that are having to put this out. So I'm a fan of the shifting alignment. So, looking forward to, I like it in the weeds here with the G5. We'll see what we can come up with here in the American.
Yeah, I think what it does, I agree with you. It gives you some opportunity maybe for some conference long shots. I mean, generally speaking, we'll talk about some of these teams, but I think it helps out the East Carolinas, the Temples, the Navies of the world that maybe were struggling to break through that glass ceiling, going up against the Houstons, UCFs, and Cincinnati's of the world. And now you're playing Charlotte, North Texas. So definitely a step down with those programs. Just to put in perspective, the average Conference USA power ranking is like a touchdown lower than American. So huge step up for these new programs and a little bit watered down for the teams that are remaining in the American. Let's start off, though, with the defending champ, the team that made great waves, pun intended, especially if you're riding the wave last year. This is a Tulane program that just so happened to have the greatest turnaround in the history of college football, going from 2-10 to 12 wins, highlighted by the Cotton Bowl win over USC, rallying from 15 points down in the final few minutes to beat the Trojans on New Year's Day. The Tulane team, at least the head coach is back, who I think is really good, Willie Fritz. He has won everywhere he's been. It doesn't matter if it's Sam Houston, Georgia Southern, or Tulane. He's been there, done that. Michael Pratt's been there, done that at quarterback. He returns for his third year as a starting quarterback. But the problem I have with these teams, with at least Tulane, is, lose your top 5 tacklers on defense. You lose a lot of studs, particularly at the skill position. Tajay Spears was an incredible running back for them. Their top 2 wide receivers are gone. This team, I think, is still the class of the league. But as far as the separation between them and the UTSAs, the Memphises, and a team I really like, SMU, I think that gap is significantly closer this year. What say you, Knish?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Obviously they got Michael Pratt was one that apparently, I don't know whatever they did at Florida this offseason with Jalen Rashad and the Michael Pratt, the checks didn't clear. The money, whoever collectives really screwed that up because this was one where you thought he was going to be gone to Florida, getting a big paycheck. He was going to be their premier lead line. It all falls apart. Tulane's able to, similar to what we'll talk about with UTSA with Frank Harris, get him some nice NIL, kind of the benefits of the NIL, a nice salary to return. But as you said, a lot of, it's going to be a tough turnover. Now, Louisiana, a state that, kind of just football talent is kind of coming off the weeds. I think Willie Fritz it's a nice job here. Willie Fritz done a great job. I think Tulane is a kind of one of those job that have kind of been laying in the woods there in terms of what its ceiling can be. So I think obviously programs on good standing. It'll be the class of the conference going forward. They have the quarterback back, but do any of the the 2-1 or anything? Do I want to invest in that in terms of being a team? Absolutely not. So as you said, best team, highest power rated team in the conference, best team in the conference, but price just too short. It's I didn't take any action regular season win wise, conference future wise. So wouldn't surprise me if they got back to the ship, but not betting him at their current number.
Fair enough. I will say, because I basically bet the board, I did take Tulane plus 275. I did bet 6 teams in this conference to win it, so it's not like that. It's not like I only made one future bet. I still went under 9.5 wins. You can win a conference going 9-3, particularly when you might lose.
I was going to say, some people questioned your if the MAC. You haven't watched the MAC preview. Yes, you can win the conference by going 9-3. If that wasn't clear.
In Toledo's case, they won the conference going 7-5.
Yeah, and most of these teams aren't lining up the non-con victory. Usually, you're going to play a Power 5 and getting, for the check here to lose the game. So
this is totally different than the Power 5, where if you win the conference at a P5, you're likely to go over your season win total. You're winning, 10, 11, 12 games. So wasn't one of my favorites, but under 9.5. And Tulane plus 275. We don't need to mark it down because there'll be some other betting opportunities on the board. One team that has gotten a lot of movement here, I've been a part of that movement, and some other, FOPs of the program are also high on this team, SMU. Rhett Lashley in his second year as a coach really went transfer portal heavy, brings in 20-plus transfers. It's one of the top transfer classes, if not the top transfer class at the Group of 5 level. Preston Stone at quarterback takes over for Tanner Mordecai. I'm here to tell you that Stone's probably just as talented as Mordecai, so I don't expect much of a drop off, if any. They do lose their leading wide receiver. Top 3 rushers are back. They welcome in a Miami transfer there. They lose some guys on defense, but their defense was terrible a year ago, so I'm not too concerned there. Again, they upgraded the talent level. A lot of Power 5 transfers across the board for this program. I did take over 7.5 wins. Unfortunately, that's no longer available. I did take them 5-1 to win the conference. I think 4-1 is still out there. I'm anxious to hear what you think about SMU. I think this team could be favored in as many as 9 or 10 games this year.
No, I'm with you. As you said, friend of the show, Tailgate Tent was on this. I know you got some down. I've got some down. This has been, one of the in terms of betting, like the chalkier favorites in these G5 teams. It's one of my, larger positions. And why do you like? Because it sets up so nice for that. They don't play UTSA. They don't play, they don't have Tulane on the schedule. There's no divisions. So really, it's just a cumulative to get that. They do obviously have a hard, they get, I think, TCU and Oklahoma in the non-con, but that doesn't matter here if we're talking about, actually in the division. So, it just sets up really nice for a game. You'd say their hardest game probably, in the conference at Memphis, and I'm not that particularly high in Memphis. So just the way the conference schedule lined up for them, the road games, East Carolina, I think falls off. Temple's not going to be very good. It just, Rice, who I've, we had been thinking might be able to turn around for a few years, never actually happens. Just sets up real nice for them. Talent on the team, I agree with you. I was not a Mordecai fan, part of what we'll talk about with Wisconsin. I'm not a fan in terms of that. I don't think he's this elite, great quarterback that's going to be, extremely hard to replace. So it seems real setup. I like Lashley. I like a lot of the talent they've got on the team. Pony Express, baby. That's probably, the favorite one. I would be shocked just with the way, obviously with the no division, if they didn't make the tie. Doesn't mean they're going to win. I'd be shocked if they didn't. They would have to, they'd have to drop probably, 2 games. I think they just have some margin. They have to drop a couple games where they're going to be a big favorite in. So, I like that. Obviously, the prices come way down shop, but if you can still get a 4-1 out there, I'd still buy that.
Zach, try DraftKings. Still had 4-1 there. I saw you had the plus 380 up on FanDuel. If there's still 4-1 on DraftKings, I'll go ahead and mark that down. I would still take that bet at 4-1 on SMU winning the conference. No longer there. Plus 370. I'm going to leave it in your hands, Knish. Are we taking plus 380 at FanDuel or not?
Yeah, no, let's take the 380.
I
think it works. Again, you gives us some option. I think they're going to make the title game the way it's up. And then, you'd have some options there if they make it. So, yeah, I'm fine with the unit on plus 380.
All right. There we go. I like that bet. I'm not a huge fan of Tulane repeating, even though I bet it. I think one of these schools, SMU and this team I'm going to talk about right now are at least have a good schedule to make a run, or at least make the championship game. And let's talk about, at least of the newbies, by far and away the team that has the best chance of competing immediately in this conference, UTSA. Jeff Traylor's done an outstanding job here. Surprised he's still here. They are paying him. He's getting as much as any Group of 5 coach in the country as far as compensated. He's got Texas ties. I'll be stunned if he's not coaching one of the bigger Power 5 Texas schools in the next couple of years. But you look at who they got coming back. Believe it or not, Frank Harris is back at quarterback for what feels like his 15th year for them. He's already the all-time leading passer in the history of the school. They did suffer a big loss when Zachary Franklin left post-spring. He's their all-time leading receiver. But they still got some guys there. Cephas, Clark at wide receiver. I like Cardenas at tight end. I like their running back. They have done a really good job recruiting. I think I'm going to give some props to Mr. Joey Knish. I remember this because I saw something very similar. I was watching the Conference USA Championship game.
The bowl game.
Yeah, Conference USA champ. Well, I'm going to go to the Conference USA Championship game. It just looks like a different level of athlete. Now they're going to face. They're stepping up in class, but man, I thought they were a different level of athlete, UTSA, compared to the rest of Conference USA. So I think they'll be able to adjust just fine. They've recruited. I mean, speaking of recruiting, I do follow it. They signed the best class in this new league, so a top 60 class. So I think, I don't think they're overwhelmed here. As long as Frank Harris is healthy, they're as good as anybody in this conference. I'm anxious to hear what you got to say.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's another one. We just talked about, Michael Pratt coming back with the NIL, where UTSA dished out, to keep Dredd, to keep Frank Harris. They're spending some money. They got the recruiting up and going. So, normally this is one, if they were moving from, the old CSA to what was the old American, and you're having to go up against, the Cincinnati, then yes. I would have been a little bit more, pedestrian in terms of their instant impact. I think they'll be able to hang around with everybody in, this conference. Now, the big question, they have to go to Tulane, would be, if that's one where that game, if it's playing out how we hope it and think it to play out, where SMU kind of is able to, kind of schedule their way into the championship game, that UTSA Tulane game might be, a play-in for whoever wins it gets the conference title. It's at Tulane. But as we've said, I mean, they've got, I think, a higher caliber of player than most of the teams in this conference in terms of size, physicality, and all that. So I think they're very live. I tell you what, if you're asking me, who would I, even though they're at Tulane, if you're betting me, who would I rather play, UTSA at their price or Tulane at their price? It's UTSA all day, not even thinking about it. So, I think they've got I think they got a real chance with everybody coming back here, and kind of going into a watered down version of the American, which sets up nice for them year one.
I am okay with some exposure. I'm going to give it, put the ball in your court. Do we want plus 475 or do we want over 7.5 wins on UTSA?
I tend to like the over 7.5.
I do too.
A touch better than I do the 475.
Yeah. So last I saw over 7.5, I believe DraftKings had it. At least as the shortest number price wise. You might have to lay a little bit of juice, but I mean, I actually think that's like a win off. I'm closer in the 8, not just a half a win. I'm closer to the 8.5 range. As far as UTSA.
They got one game that's you would say is a for sure L on the schedule at Tennessee. Other than that, I think they got a lot of games that they'll be favored in plus.
There you go, that penny. Look at Zach shot. That penny.
Oh, baby, it's yeah.
Oh no, that's an 8. Never mind. Never mind. That's an 8. No, I want 7.5. I bet 100 win totals last year. I cannot tell you how many of them I won by half a win. So I mean, I value a win to be about 70 cents. So it would still show that the 7.5 is showing a little bit slightly more value there. I mean, I don't want them to hold up my money for 6 months and to push. I want the win, win or a loss. All right, there we go. Over 7.5.
Oh, here we go, boys. It's that time of year, baby. Uncle Joey Knish, a.k.a. Joey Seven Figures. It's football season, and you know what that means, baby. Circa Sports Football Contest. The biggest guaranteed prizes in all the land. 14 million. Let me say that again. $14 million in guaranteed money. Zero rake. 0% rake. Every dollar that goes into the pot gets paid out to the contestants. The two biggest contests, Circa Millions, Circa Survivor. You don't want to miss it. Get to Vegas before September 9th, baby. I'll be there for Bet Bash, signing up, ready to go. I want Derek Stevens money, baby. Give me some of that Derek Stevens cash. Circa Millions, Circa Survivor, get there.
Let's move on to Memphis. You already kind of previewed them and saying that you're not too high on them. Full disclosure for me, I bet an early bad number over 7. But I did take back a little under 8.5. So I'm kind of indifferent. My number's right in between there. On this one, I'll say generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of their head coach. Generally speaking, I'm not a big fan of offensive line coaches that end up getting that head gig. Ryan Silverfield, that's what he was the offensive line coach for Memphis. And where does it show up? Well, it shows up in a lot of the analytics. It shows up in game management, and I think it was one of the big reasons that Memphis was 0-4 in games decided by a touchdown or less a year ago. They bring in a ton of players. 40 of them, 40 plus, like a lot of these schools. Seth Hennigan's back at quarterback, but they lose their top 5 wide receivers. That's concerning. A couple key guys. Prescorn is going to be the starting tight end for Ole Miss, and their defensive tackle, Cameron Jackson, is the talk of Florida's camp. So when you lose 2 guys to the portal and they go to SEC schools and they're the talk of the spring, that's 2 significant losses. So I just bet over 7 because it was a bad number, but I could be talking and have bet under 8.5.
Yeah, I'd lean under on the 8.5 as well. I think if you can find that a reasonable juice, I like. Now, granted, their schedules they don't really have. I mean, I got Missouri coming in and Boise State, but for the most part, and they got a reasonable draw there in the American, but. Just as you said, in terms of the direction of the program, I don't like who they hired. I'm not the biggest. Seth Hennigan has been a lot of ups and downs. In his career, they lost. I think there was five returners on the defense. As you said, probably the 2 outright best players went to SEC schools, and they were really good players. I think there's talent in terms of program status. There's talent in the Memphis area, and you can get a lot of guys eligible at Memphis for different reasons. But overall, where they're at this year, I don't think the direction of the program's a way I want it back. I don't think they're a real contender for this conference. So in under 8.5 at depending on where we can find the reasonable juice would be a play for me. I think it wouldn't surprise me to see them continue to perform poorly in some of these toss-up games, and just I don't think they've replaced some of their outgoing talent with guys that, a couple of those guys, like you said, Prescorn and the defensive side, those guys are going to make NFL rosters. It's tough to replace at Memphis for a staff that I'm just not very high on.
If we are interested in 8.5, last I saw it was at FanDuel, Zach. I'm not sure. I might be significantly juiced now, but we'll see. We can move along while he's looking for that. Let's talk. I'm going to talk a few more schools, and then we can spray the board. We don't have to talk all 14 teams in this league. Navy. I want to talk about Navy, though, because they have a new coach for the first time in nearly 2 decades. Ken Niumatalolo is gone. They fired him in the locker room post the Army game. My question always was, because, if you watch the Army-Navy game last year, there's a fumble at the goal line for Navy. If they score and he wins, they still fire this guy? I don't know. So I just don't. But anyways, Brian Newberry, who was the defensive coordinator, he's now the head coach. He's from Kennesaw State from a few years ago. He hires the offense coordinator from Kennesaw State. And, when you watch the very first game of the college football season is Notre Dame Navy, and you turn on that game, Navy's not going to be all option this year. And in fact, all the Service Academy teams are going to be all option. So they're going to throw the ball a lot more, probably on average 10, 15 times a game compared to, 5. So that'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure that they have the quarterback in place for that. But what they do have in place, I like their fullback Fofana. Defensively, Newberry's side of the ball. I mean, I like several players. That Ramos kid at linebacker, safety, Lane. These are all solid players. One thing I do like is their experience level, Knish. 16 returning starters for Navy. Typically, service academies aren't very experienced. So what I did was like, man, when's the last time Navy returned 16 starters? My records go back to 1990. Not in any of those years have they returned 16 starters. So This is a very experienced team, and it's a team that, even with a new coach, I think they benefit from a watered-down league. I mean, the reality is North Texas and Charlotte and this version of UAB that's going to suck under Trent Dilfer is not the same as Cincinnati and UCF and Houston. So I went over 5.5 on Navy. I know there's a little bit of disagreement there in the marketplace, but I'm really comfortable with over 5.5. I'll put it that way.
I'm leaning with you. I like that, what Kennesaw State was able to do in that system. It gives you a little bit more variability in terms of if you're really having trouble getting the option going. I think it leads to some more explosive play potential. As you said, I mean, it's one of those where, for the most part, these service academies are, junior seed or late and not too much turnover. But now you've got the returning starters plus some extra depth. If you're running so much and they cut and stab, you can kind of lose, your quarterbacks and your fullback, your running backs, can take a lot of dings. But I don't think depth is going to be an issue. I kind of like some of the. I will say Notre Dame. That's going to be a tough one to prepare for there in terms of what their. That week one's going to look for, a little variation. And the biggest factor there, when you don't have to play teams with, the frontline talent of a UCF and a Cincinnati and the size and the athlete, and you can go down a level, it's like, whenever you see these, they play these FCS schools and they just run for, 800 yards against them because they don't have the size to defend the option. They're able to blow them off the line of scrimmage a little bit. That should work better now in this kind of, watered down American. So I agree with you. I don't know, ceiling wise, maybe the top of the conference is probably a bit too strong for them to make any kind of actual, real, run in that. But like the, over 5, that was a pretty juiced 5.5. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we won't lay that 170. But, I keep in mind, I bet every team's win total for, I think 115 now I'm up to. So just because I bet it doesn't mean you guys should be running the window to lay 170 and have them hold up your money. But I do like over 5.5.
I bought some week one. I will say that. We'll see. Hey, listen, you're giving me Navy and 3 touchdowns against a Notre Dame team that, listen, the fan base is panicking, folks, as they should be. We'll get into it, but things are not all well in South Bend.
I did bet Navy as well, plus 21.5. At the current numbers, I prefer the over because I'm not sure Notre Dame is going to know what Navy's going to run offensively. It's going to take them a while to adjust. And come on, you are going, Drew Pine to Sam Hartman. So I do think Notre Dame's offense will they'll move the football too. 49. Even with the new clock rules, is a little low. I mean, especially I've watched Notre Dame Navy games. They are routinely pretty high scoring, including last year, 35-32. So over if you want to look at that one, if you want an early total bet. Let's talk a couple more teams, and then I'll give you the floor. Let's talk UAB because I'm really negative on this coach. And I try not to be too negative on first-year coaches too much, but I don't like the Trent Dilfer hire at all, to be honest with you, especially when this program was literally, I would say resurrected from the dead basically by Bill Clark. And then, he obviously leaves in the middle of the summer due to health reasons. They have an interim coach. look, they didn't have a great record last year, but statistically speaking, they were still dominant. They just didn't have much luck as far as the close wins and losses department. But if there is a significant downgrade of coach, it is that Bill Clark coaching staff going to Trent Dilfer, who's never coached at this level. His coordinators have never coached at this level at OC and DC. And I'm just not a big fan of the all-talk Dilfer, who's already made some waves and stuff. I'm not buying it. And plus, I'm not buying the fact that UAB's taking a large step up as far as talent level here. Under 5.5 for me. I bet it multiple times, even laid some heavy juice. What do you think of the Dilfer hire?
You're going to make me talk a little positive about the Trent Dilfer. Here's what it reminds me of a little bit. Do I like the hire long term? No, I do not. In the short term, and I know they lost a number of key players off last year's run, it reminds me a bit, I'm going to throw you, of the Herm Edwards transition when everybody thought it was going to be a disaster year one, and did it eventually get to a point where it was on a leave. But year one, when you bring back, some of that culture still there, some of the staff still there, I just don't know if it's going to be as bad. This was a elite program here under Bill Clark for the last few years. Is it going to be as bad as we think? I don't know. And I know they're,
You want to go head to head?
I'll give you 5. I was going to say, if there's, I don't think I've seen juiced 5.5 to the under. I'm good. And I know also they have, they go to Georgia, lost. They've got to play at Georgia Southern, which is tough. They definitely don't have I would need, God, I'd really want a 4.5 or a 5. If you want to go head-to-head 5.
We'll go head-to-head on 5.
We'll do head-to-head on 5. Big 5, head-to-head. I'm not selling the people on Dilfer being in the next Belichick. I just don't know if it's going to be that much of regression year one.
I think there will be. We'll see, though. You're right. I'll tell you what, man. You brought up a really good example because I was Mr. Negativity on Herm.
Same here, and I will always take that as a lesson of being like, what? Just how much impact your way can a head coach, and again, you saw it over a few years, it hit the point, and then he was out. But year one, instant, I was like, So I think they'll be worse, but maybe not completely bottomed out so quickly.
I did. I lost my ass year one fading Herm. But in the end, I will say we were right in the end. On Herm. But you're right. Very good point. That's Joey Knish, the man, the myth, the legend himself. I'm merely Brad Powers. One more school I want to talk about here, and then we can talk about anybody else. Florida Atlantic. Talk about a bad coaching hire. I like this coaching hire that Florida Atlantic made. Tom Herman took a year of sabbatical off. He looks like a different person. He lost 50, 60 pounds. He doesn't even look like the same guy. But he's FAU there, takes over for Willie Taggart. That's a coaching upgrade. Also an upgrade, they get Casey Thompson at quarterback. Keep in mind, he recruited Casey Thompson at Texas. And I'm here to tell you, I'm not sure that Tom Herman was that bad at Texas. Go start going through his record. Sure, he lost some games that he should have, that he shouldn't have, and he won some games. He was a better dog than favorite. But, you start looking at Sark's record the first 2 years compared to Herman's last couple of years, and you're like, we really fired Tom Herman for this, but we'll see. That's to be determined there. But I think he already knows this conference well, going back to his Houston days where he dominated the conference. He ended up winning a Peach Bowl against the Florida State it was. I just think this is more of in his wheelhouse here. He's got a ton of returning experience. They're one of the most, as far as returning production, they're in the top 10 in the country. Returning starters, production, you name it. Casey Thompson's a big upgrade at quarterback, like I mentioned. Like this team quite a bit. I think that they're back in a bowl game this year. Now, the market loves this team. 7.5 is a little high. They'll be coach of the year if he goes 8-4, in my opinion.
No, I'm with. This is one where it was everything kind of you lined up. You're like, this team. It's just as you said. I think the number now, you're paying a premium to back this team. I love the Tom Herman hire. I like Casey Thompson. I liked him a lot when he was healthy at Nebraska, not getting murdered behind what Scott Frost was trying to do. I liked him a lot. I will say one coach that I in the past that I was really raw was Willie Taggart's potential as being a head coach. I think a huge upgrade, to get Taggart out of there and go. That's a Florida Atlantic team that should have been better than actually bet some FAU futures last year and got burned on Willie Tagg sending me down. But I think this is one I really, really wanted to invest in. I just didn't get did you end up taking any piece of FAU?
I took under 7.5. I think that's asking a lot.
And it was like it's all the futures are under 10-1. When you've got the top of the conference so strong, Tulane, SMU, UTSA, like I think they can have a very good year and not get to the conference side. So I just, it's one of those. Could I see him hitting the ceiling at 8-4? Yeah, sure. But I just, as you said, I don't want to buy. I don't want to take over 7.5. I don't want to buy futures at where it's at now. So for me, it's a no play on Florida Atlantic. Even though I think they could be good, great higher long term. It's just you're paying quite a premium on the instant Tom Herman impact here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little surprised by it. I was expecting to be, over, like being, have a conference future, over win total, having a lot of money invested in Florida Atlantic. I mean, it's a team that's had a losing record in Conference USA the last couple of years, and now you set your win total at 7.5 with upgraded competition. They also have a tricky non-conference game, Ohio. Ohio's a team that we both like. They can lose that game. I know it's at home; they'll be favored, but wouldn't shock me if they lost that game. So, I in fact, I bet under 7.5, even though I love Herman. I'm going to talk quickly on a few other teams. You mentioned you've got a big take. On any of these. East Carolina, a little down on. They have hardly anybody back. Tulsa was priced way too low to start. We'll see what Wilson does, the new coach there. I mean, I think they're priced accordingly at the current numbers. North Texas, I'm a little down on. I just think there's an adjustment period there for them stepping up in conference. Temple's a team that I think, could be a sleeper. There's a lot of guys that I respect they were betting this team almost weekly at the end of last season. I mean, I'm talking a bunch of different guys that I respect. You got Kurt Warner's son, really came on strong at the end of last year as a true freshman. That's a team that I bet, I took a flyer on a long shot, 85-1. Do I think they're going to win it? No, but I thought the price should have been more like 40 or 50-1, not 85-1.
Yeah.
USF, new coach. We'll see. I mean, I think it'll be an upgrade, but I thought they were a little low on them, though, to be honest with you. 3 was the opening win total I bet over. Rice, I'm negative on. Biff Poggi from Michigan.
There you go.
I think that's an outside-the-box hire that I'm okay with, unlike Dilfer. Just because, look, Charlotte's got nothing. I mean, they got nothing to lose. They stink. I mean, where UAB had something, they go outside-the-box hire. I'm not so sure I would have done that, but I mean, Biff, I don't know. Do you follow him on Twitter? He's pretty aggressive.
Yeah, he likes to mix it up. He, there was a great Feldman story on him right before he got the Charlotte job around, part of the culture change at Michigan, that he was a big part of, he made a ton of money, like as like a hedge fund guy and doesn't need the money, kind of doing it out of a passion thing. So he brought over a couple of Michigan guys too that weren't going to start this year, but are good players. I just think year one, they need a big talent infusion. I think their offense is going to be real rough. But I like him as a outsider. But I'm with you on East Carolina. Thought Keaton Mitchell was like one of the most impactful players for any team as a skill player in the entire country in terms of what he did for East Carolina. Thank God Holton Ahlers doesn't play for East Carolina anymore, because I think my track record on him, there'd probably be a lot more, nice stuff back here in this house if Holton Ahlers never played college football. I laid -35 with Michigan week 1 against them.
You did?
I did. I think, with all the turnover, Michigan Harbaugh wants to get a bunch of guys, reps. He's one that at certain where I like laying big numbers. So it was 35 flat, though. I think 35.5 is the best out there now. But again, I like I like a little bit of East Carolina under there. The only other team that let me include back up that I had any interest into was USF. That is a program that should be, in terms of where they're located, what the potential. That's a program that should be much better than they are. I think offensively they can fit. Defensively, oh my God, they were so horrific last year. But they should, I think they'll be better this year. But again, one that all these teams at the bottom there, not much. Don't think they'll be making much noise at the conference, but I'm with you on an East Carolina fade, and I'm probably a little bit more bullish on USF. Did play some. I think you got some 3. I played some 3.5. I think it's a team that should see an instant instant, again, improvement, but, improvement's probably 5 or 6 wins at the ceiling.
Is there anything you're strong on? Because, again, guys, I have bet every win total, so it's almost not fair. Is there anything that you wanted to, add to the board here as far as win totals? Because you can talk me into any of this stuff.
Is there a 3.5s out there anymore for USF? I would have, joined that if there's a 3.5.
I'm not sure. I think it's already, to be honest with you, I think it's up to 4.5 in spots.
Yeah, see, that's.
I think I saw 6.5 on East Carolina, but it's super juiced, I think, at FanDuel, so no there.
Oh, no. Oh, we got. Oh, no, never. I'm looking at the wrong. Yeah, it's minus 215. I thought there was one. I can't. Not laying that.
I think it's a winner, though.
I agree. I strongly agree. Yeah, I think if you can shop around and find anything more in the the minus 150, I'd even go up a little higher than that. I do think I agree. That is a winner for a team that I haven't been high on for a few years, and I think finally this that the turnover in the coaching staff should be way too much for him.
I don't have too much else here. Again, Tulane, recapping it, Tulane we think should be power rated number 1, but we certainly think that gap's closed. We took an SMU conference future in this one. Also, looking at over on UTSA. As far as the win total, over 7.5 wins. We have a head-to-head on UAB. We have under 8.5 on Memphis. I think that, recapping it, that's all the bets that we have for this one. Anything else to add, Knish?
No, I like that. Get the G5 rolling, baby, and let's see if we can catch a winner here in the People's Conference, the American.
As always, guys, make sure you are hitting the subscribe button, and whether you're watching it on the Hit the Books YouTube channel. That way you get notified in real time whenever a new episode drops or we go live. If you enjoy the content, smash the like button. If you're listening in audio form, review it and rate it 5 stars. For Joey Knish and our outstanding producer, Zach Phillips, I'm Brad Powers. You have just watched Hit the Books, part of the Hammer Betting Network.